Hola from Ecuador, guys. It's illumignostic. I wish the circumstances for this live stream were a little bit cheerier. Um, Most of you are probably aware that there are some pretty major protests going on here in Ecuador. It's definitely really bad timing for us and has already had a profoundly negative impact on our business. Um, But regardless of that fact, I have to stand with the indigenous because they're absolutely right. Yeah, I talk a little bit on this channel about exploitation economies and what that means. And if you guys follow the channel, then you're probably aware that I've actually dealt with some exploitation economy stuff with the landowner, where we're having our retreat, basically insisting that we pay an illegal wage to the local indigenous people. We can get away with it because they're indigenous, she said. Um, so they're just tired of it, and I don't blame them. The indigenous here in Ecuador represent 1 million of the 17.7 million people. This happened a few years ago in 2019. The country was shut down for 3 weeks to a month. I can't really remember. But what they do is they drop trees across the road and burn tires. And if you try to pass, they will throw. Okay, I don't know where I lost you guys at. The internet cut out for a second. It's a problem that we have here in the jungle quite often. But what I was saying is that this is basically all over the price of gas. And what they're trying to do is put pressure on the president to control the gas prices. And, this is something that I see with people in the US a lot on social media. People blaming Joe Biden for the price of gas. The reality is that presidents, neither here in Ecuador nor anywhere else in the world, really have much influence over gas prices. Sure, policies here and there, things they say can have a minute effect, but here's the reality, you guys. Did we lose the internet again? Nope. Um, Here's the reality. Uh, the oil industry turned in a quarter, or no, quarter quadrillion, so 200, um, or quarter, yeah, quarter quadrillion, $200 trillion. That can't be right. Is that right? See, basically what I had calculated is that the oil industry is poised to become the first industry to ever make a quadrillion dollars in profits in a single year. Um, so, so that is, and actually, Charles, that's not really even true. That they have refused to drill the oil companies. Anyways, the bottom line is it's about oil executives. If you're going to defend big oil making profits like that while common people are unable to drive to work, there's something fucking wrong with you. Free market capitalism is not supposed to be about that. It's supposed to be about giving everyone an opportunity. And what has happened is that the people at the top are standing on the fucking throats of the people on the bottom. And unfortunately for them, some of those people around the world, like the indigenous here in Ecuador, are willing to fucking burn the whole thing down if they have to in order to defend themselves and to fight back. And the problem is, and the reason this takes so long, for them to, last time they gave the indigenous what they wanted and they slashed the price of gas somehow and got it down to whatever it is they were demanding. But the reality is, the president of Ecuador does not control the gas price. He can't just say, okay, guys, it's now $2.55 a gallon, which is what they're demanding. He doesn't have that power. And in fact, in the U.S., all of this shit about Joe Biden, I mean, fuck that guy. I don't like him either, but it's diversion. And it's really important for people to recognize this diversion. The president of Ecuador, the president of the United States, all of these fucking figureheads are just scapegoats. That's all. It's so that the corporate empire, the real true puppet masters, the powers that be, can just pretend like it's these bumbling idiots making bad decisions that are causing the price of oil to fly through the roof. Look, if their profits were staying the same as prices were going up, okay, but they're not. They're increasing exponentially as the prices are going up. So you're telling me it's something other than profit motive that is driving the gas prices through the ceiling? That's just dumb. It's just dumb. And it's it's just, if you're falling for that narrative, it's just another wedge issue that is being put out there to divide the people, to make the left hate the right. And it's so obvious that it's literally painful for me to watch it, you know? Um, it's just the people at the top scooping up tons of money. Quit pointing a finger at, this. I mean, it's almost like picking on a senile, you know what I mean? Joe Biden is just this like mildly retarded, senile scumbag that is just taking the blame for all of this shit. He doesn't even know what the fuck is going on. You know what I mean? What's going on is that the lower and middle classes are getting a fucking chokehold put on them that's intended to choke them not unconscious but to death, basically. Um, you know what I mean? And I think it's really important for us not to fall for it. Stop blaming Joe Biden. It just makes me feel sick. I'm scrolling through YouTube and I see all these posts from people. What can Sleepy Joe do next? Sleepy Joe can't do a fucking thing. He was neutered when they put him in the White House. Donald Trump was neutered when they put him in the White House. You know what I mean? You guys should notice a trend. Donald Trump was absolutely excoriated by the press. Everyone was going after him. They absolutely hated him. And now that Joe Biden is in office, it's the same thing. It's their scapegoat. It's misdirection. So that you don't climb over the gated communities where the real criminals are. Not that these politicians aren't to blame for being puppets of these people, but the CEO of Exxon Mobil and all of those, oil industry giants, people are going to come after them, if they really understood what's going on. So they just place the blame on their puppets. Yeah, they're all culpable. I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying that he is not making these decisions. It's not a result of anything he's doing directly. It's all engineered to put more money into the pockets of the oil and gas industry people. And what I'm saying about this thing that's happening in Ecuador is that the president of Ecuador surely does not have the ability to give the indigenous what they want. So how are these protests ever going to stop? I mean, we have this retreat happening here, and we literally had guests, and we just got started, right? So this is like potentially a death blow for us because we put all of our money into building a ceremonial building, promoting, buying all the accoutrements and stuff that we needed. Um, so we needed to have the first couple of months go well, because we were barely able to do this at all. And so now to have like travel completely frozen for maybe up to a month, and um, it's uh, it's not good, for us. In fact, it's so bad that it totally made me lose my train of thought thinking about it. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that are having a hard time right now all of a sudden, not like things weren't already hard enough. I mean, look at the way this happened in Ecuador. First, we had this happen in 2019, right? And then we had, as soon as that was over, we had COVID lockdowns and all the economic impact from that. And then as soon as we're all taking a breath and finally able to start moving forward with our lives, now there's this protest locking us all down in our houses and stopping our guests from arriving. They had to go back to the U.S. Because there's no way for them to travel here. Um, we have another guest that's stuck here because of this. Uh, Howdy, Tommy. No, Charles, if you had a more competent president, he would be dead. That's it. Like, there is never going to be an alpha monkey that is leading the pack unless this whole system is torn down and rebuilt. You'll never have a competent president. You'll never have a president with any real power ever again. Never, ever, ever. Don't follow leaders. Watch your parking meter. You don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows. This is moving towards autonomy for every living person on Earth, or destruction, in my opinion. I don't look to leaders. No one should look to leaders. You're never going to find anybody that wants that kind of power that actually deserves it, that it should actually have it, right? Anyone that's pursuing power for it, especially in this kind of gross plastic material, pointless, horrifically just awful society that we have, to make it to the top of that shit heap and expect that sociopathic psychopath that was able to rise to the top of the shit heap in the United States of America to make decisions that are actually in the best interests of the collective. I mean, you guys, I grew up around the elite. I'm living seriously, like as a child, sitting there eating dinner with the CEO of ExxonMobil because I was on the outskirts of Washington, D.C., and they all work in Washington, D.C., and in Fairfax, the surrounding areas, Northern Virginia, Southern Maryland. Um, and I happened to live, I was in a very poor neighborhood, but I happened to live like right in the heart of where the wealthiest people in that area all own property, which is Fairfax County. At the time, it was the second wealthiest per capita. Um, so I had friends that were bringing pictures of Reagan and Schwarzenegger in second grade for show and tell at dinner at their house. You know what I mean? Um, and they get drunk just like everyone else. And I have sat and listened to them rant and rave about the peasants and even as like a 9-year old, it occurred to me that, if this is what they think about the common people, what do the people all the way at the top think about the people that are way down at the bottom? It's time to put an end to the naivety. It's time for people to really actually realize the gravity of the situation that we're in. The kind of narcissists, sociopaths, psychopaths that you have to be to get into these clubs. I'm not a believer in the satanic, blood drinking Illuminati. I mean, I do believe in the Illuminati. I know they're real, but I also think they're on the same side that I am. And that everything that people have been fed is complete misdirection, garbage, and bullshit. In fact, I've seen proof of that with my own eyes. I know for absolute certainty that the popular narrative about all that is total garbage. Um, no self-respecting Satanist would dress like Hillary Clinton. First of all, that's easy. If you have that kind of ego, that kind of left-hand path narcissism, you're not going to be a frumpy sack of shit like that woman. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen. If these people were blood drinking Satanists, they would be sexy and they would be debonair and they would be sophisticated. You know what I mean? It's just that is enough. They're not, it's nothing that cool. They're just sociopathic, brainwashed pieces of shit. That's all it is. That's all it is. And you can quit blaming the politicians because they're just scapegoats. One more time, guys. Oil record profits last quarter. And everybody's like, fuck Joe Biden. Yeah, fuck Joe Biden. Fuck Joe Biden to death with a rusty fucking nail in hell. Okay. But that has nothing to do with the fact that the real issue is corporate greed. You know what I mean? Like, yes, Joe Biden has to be a sack of shit that's willing to do whatever they tell him and say whatever they tell him and whatever. Honestly, my suspicion is that the reason their puppets are getting progressively crazier and stupider as time goes on is that they're at the bottom of the barrel. It's getting difficult for them to find people that are out of touch enough, that are pathetic enough, that are empty enough, that are vapid enough, that are vacuous and greedy and hollow and sociopathic and desperate enough to do the kind of vile shit that they need them to do in order to serve their purpose. You know what I mean? They're having to really scrape the bottom of the barrel for senile 80-year-olds and women like Kamala Harris. You guys remember when they were doing the Democratic debates? And remember, you guys, I am more left-leaning than right-leaning by far. At least as the left used to be. I don't know what the fuck is going on with people these days, but you know what I mean? Like I was definitely leaning more towards Democrat than Republican in a lot of ways. So don't start that shit with me. It's not about that. But when Kamala Harris said they asked her about Joe Biden, and she said the only thing we need to be talking about regarding Joe Biden is whether he's more of a rapist or a racist. And after saying that, when he announced her as her running mate, she was like, "Oh, he's wonderful and amazing." And also, all of the Democrats that were watching that debate still voted for these two. After seeing that, all of them saw it, and then they just tried to pretend like it didn't happen. Like Kamala Harris is just amazing because she's black and she's a woman. Never mind the fact that she has absolutely no integrity. And some of the biggest like issues with the left are women's rights and racism. And yet we have a black woman on television saying he's a rapist and a racist. And that's your guy to get rid of racist Donald Trump? Like, people need to snap the fuck out of it. Like, this is just getting too goddamn crazy, you know? I know I'm ranting and I don't care. It's fucking important. Somebody has to say this stuff. My God, man. Yeah, aliens, aliens. That's the only hope we really have, I think, is alien intervention. Um, and honestly, I've been drinking a lot of ayahuasca lately, and we ask the medicine stuff, and to a lot of people, I'm sure that sounds crazy, but after you get enough accurate answers, you're just kind of like, man, this stuff is like a crystal ball. I don't care what anyone says. I'm sorry if your ontological parameters don't have space for that kind of idea, but it's real. And I asked, the other night, like, so what is about to happen? Are we going into World War III, or what is the? And there were just in my vision, it just suddenly was nothing but aliens, and I was like, okay, good answer, because that's really, I think, about the only thing that could diffuse this. I mean, we had the right wing suddenly like cheering on Russia as if, and that's, you guys really need to pay attention to this, how easy it is for them to totally turn a narrative on its head. You have right wingers who for decades have hated Russia, Russian enemy, all the way back to the 50s. When I was in my 20s, which was only 20 years ago, less than 20 years ago, um, for the majority of it, it was still, you Russian commie bastard if they didn't like you. You know what I mean? And suddenly, like, all the right wing media had to do was say, we like Russia now. And they're all like, yay, Russia with pom poms and shit. That's the kind of fucking sheep that we're dealing with out there in the world. And so now Trump has said the other day that Putin has turned into a diabolical, evil, what is the word for it? Genocidal maniac. So how, it's just blowing my mind. Like, how is the right wing going to deal with that now? Are you guys abandoning Trump, or are we supporting Ukraine, or how are you guys dealing with all this cognitive dissonance out there? Because it really is getting to be, the degree of absurdity is like, Philip K. Dick couldn't have written this. It's just crazy. It is just totally, totally fucking insane. And so, where is it all going? To be honest, I think that total and complete collapse is inevitable before there is space for something new to rise up from the ashes. This is the truth of the alchemical process, right? Like, the original prima materia has to be destroyed completely before the philosopher's stone can emerge, right? So, I wish I had some message of positivity and hope, um, but I honestly don't really. In the long run, sure, I think we could maybe have a new world with a totally different sort of objective, a different guiding light. Um, but the way I understand the laws of nature, it's not possible for that to happen without, some chaos for the new order to sort of emerge from. And I think that we're descending very, very rapidly into that chaos. When I learned the other day that Russia is has made very specific threats. Um, via state television, fucking Amazon, uh, via their, it's propaganda for sure, and they were talking about creating a nuclear tsunami to take out the entire British Britain. That is a declaration of intent to commit crimes against humanity. Um, I I'm honestly surprised that any world leader would go that far. Uh, it is very concerning. And then what do we have? South Korea. They've been parading their nukes around in the streets for a couple of years at least now. The U.S. State Department just made a public statement about how China's coercion and aggression is getting much more intense. Um, I think that what we're seeing in Ecuador, hopefully, honestly, is just the tip of the iceberg. Um, it's it's so much like history repeating that I'm a little bit suspicious because the way that this would go, so far as I can tell, is that as it did in 2019, right? We had these protests down here, and almost simultaneously there were protests in France. There were protests in the United States. Like shit started hitting the fan everywhere right around the same time. So I'll go ahead and make some predictions that that's going to happen, right? It's going to start going crazy all over the place, even more than it is. Protests, riots, that whole thing. Then we're going to have another round of a different pandemic, right? It's just history is going to repeat, and it's going to do it faster and faster until the details stop changing. Just like when you spin a top and eventually it's sort of static. It's just this blur that kind of just looks like one thing, right? So that would be circumstances crystallizing into um, a sort of permanent state. So, uh, I mean, that's all I've got for you guys, man. Please, if you can, send us some support because we are trapped in Ecuador. Our guests cannot arrive. We cannot make money. Our rent is still going to be due in 2 weeks. I support the indigenous efforts, man. It's a crazy thing because my family is profoundly affected. Oh, also, I wanted to thank our two new patrons. I should have done that in the beginning, but Doman and David Schmidt, thank you so much for your support. Become a patron. You can join us for secret streams. We can all watch the world burn together. Um, in other news, we are still trying to acquire this property that has 1,000 fish in a fish farm. It has waterfalls, uh, ceremonial buildings, 16 bedrooms, um, caverns, cacao forest, bananas, coca plants, everything you need basically. Clean water. The river is crystal clear. They use it for drinking, bathing, everything. Um, we're trying to see if we can acquire it. So if you're maybe interested in investing in some land with us, we're definitely scrambling to try to find a way to get a hold of this property before the nukes start raining down all over the planet. Because it really is it's perfect. I mean, it's self-sufficient. The weather's perfect all the time. Um, I don't know how we can do it, but we're definitely trying. Um, so at any rate, I'm gonna go for a walk in the jungle. I think tonight in the dark. I'll bring a light, of course, but we're gonna go for a night hike to try to get some of this energy sort of loosened up. Because man, it was a bummer. These guests are the sisters of our current guest, and he was really looking forward to the experience that they were going to have. Um, Things were just starting to move forward for us after years of struggle. So really, the timing, man, it just seems like such a cruel joke. But again, I I cannot fault the indigenous for rising up and trying to fight back. I don't blame them one little bit. And I think we're going to see a lot more disruptions like that around the planet. And honestly, I mean, I have to say that I support. I have to be careful what I say because I want my channel to remain here. I just had to bite my tongue a little bit. Um, so, anyways, guys, try to keep your chins up out there as the world crumbles around you. I see it all as a sort of developmental process. I have to remain focused and in control and even expanding and growing and improving regardless of the obstacles and the stumbling blocks. Uh, and, there's really no space for fear. It is, it is like dissonance. Uh, and it limits our ability to be receptive to our creative energies, and it reduces our intelligence, right? Our IQ goes down. We don't have any space for that here. So we maintain optimism. We are in solidarity with the indigenous people and their protests here. It's unfortunate that it's misguided, and they're asking the president to bring the oil prices down as if it's a communist country and he can just decide what things cost or something. I mean, that's not how this works. So don't let the governments fool you. You gotta see through the propaganda. Tell your friends if you hear people like talking about how Joe Biden driving the gas prices up, just slap them right in the mouth. Tell it it's okay. Illumignostic says you can. Slap them right in the fucking mouth, and just tell them that maybe $200 trillion quarterly profit was a little bit too much for big oil. Maybe that's just a little bit over the top. Maybe record profits when we have like the worst economic conditions since the Great Depression is a little bit ridiculous. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a socialist underneath it all, and I am an enemy of free market capitalism. But I kind of feel like these scumbags have pushed it a little bit too far. Maybe it's just me, but well, of course he is. But so is Donald Trump, and that's the thing. I mean, either side of the coin is controlled by these people. And my point is that all of you that are involved in this political mudslinging shit are just fucking walking right into their trap and doing exactly what they want you to. So that's my only point about that. I mean, I'm not, of course, all the politicians are bought and sold, but the right wing is full of shit and the left wing is full of shit. It's all bullshit. And you just need to like not even think about that. They're just scapegoats. What we really need to be thinking about is how do we actually get to the root of the problem. And unfortunately, I cannot go any further into my personal thoughts about that. Otherwise, I could lose my channel, and then my one, line out into the uh, world is gone. My last connection with the rest of humanity, and I can't risk that. So you just have to read between the lines. Um, you know, Alien intervention, and even in the case of alien intervention, um, they might not be good. They might, in fact, if you just think about it logically, if you have come all the way across a star system to go inhabit another planet, chances are pretty good your intentions are just to wipe out whatever's there and take it over yourself. Um, the New Agers with their light and love and unicorn farts and fairy dust, snorting, blowing lines of fairy dust. I'm not so sure that I'm confident that just because a race of people is a million years older than humanity, that they're going to be enlightened and kind and sweet, and that they're going to come here to give us kisses and eat our evil politicians for us. Um, on the other hand, if they were malignant, we'd probably all already be under control and dead. So there's that. And for what it's worth, I had some experiences maybe 10 years ago or so where I was told by people that definitely made a good case for taking them seriously. That there would be an intervention on the part of extraterrestrials at the very last moment when we were just about to blow ourselves back into stardust. Um, and the fact that the Pentagon and the media are suddenly, sort of admitting, I guess, that there are. If you guys watch the Pentagon briefings at Congress, they weren't saying like there could be aliens here. They're like, this planet is crawling with craft that we couldn't shoot if we wanted to. Like we could not hit them. Um, so it kind of looks like we're already under the control of some non-human intelligence that is far superior to us. It already happens. Like we're already, like when the cops are gonna raid your crib, they they have it totally under control before they come in the house. Pretty sure that we've passed that point with these ETs. I mean, that's what the Pentagon was telling Congress, right? This is not just like me saying shit. Um, they for a week, the Pentagon was I think meeting with Congress for an hour, 5 day work week every day for 5 days to debrief them on the UFO situation. Which and it was basically their message. They're like, we have no defense against whatever these things are. So that's another thing to consider, you guys. If they're benevolent, we're already saved because they have already infiltrated the planet. Their technology is so far beyond our defense systems that no one is even going to try. No one's even going to try. There's no point. And that would be a hell of a day for all of these, you know, arrogant, ridiculously insane world powers to suddenly just be so powerless that they couldn't even move without risking getting vaporized. You know what I mean? Like that's an amazing thought. And according to the Pentagon, that moment has already arrived. Um, so if there's anything that gives me any consolation right now, given the state of the world and the nuclear threats, and now the country that I live in is totally paralyzed, uh, the possibility that there are benevolent aliens here that could put these people in their place and allow humanity. I mean, they could get rid of religion. There could be a an interaction just on the level of consciousness that could totally rewrite the script for humanity in amazing ways. There are people here that are so much more advanced than the average person that the difference between them and the average person is greater than the difference between, the average person and a chimpanzee. And we're just talking about humans here. The occasional truly bright light of humanity. The gap between that person and the average human is far greater than the gap between an average person and a chimpanzee. So if it's true that wisdom leads to enlightenment, and these aliens are a million years older than the humans, they could be so far advanced that we cannot even comprehend a single thought that would go through their heads. So, here's to praying that the aliens are here and that they're good and that they're going to help, because I really, with barring the possibility of a totally synchronized global uprising, the only thing that can turn this around would be aliens. And in the case of a global uprising, there's going to be a lot of death, there's going to be a lot of destruction, there's going to be total economic fucking melee. It's it's not going to be pretty. But there is a very good possibility that aliens could come down and have a very simple conversation with people that could straighten out a lot of shit. So it's definitely what I'm voting for. Thank you guys so much for spending this time with me. And the next stream will probably continue with ayahuasca and integration and the stuff that is a little bit more cheery. Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying, Tommy. In 100 years, if you look at the telescopic nature of evolution, we had like what was like 100,000 years between hunter and gatherer and agriculture, and then from agriculture to technology was only, so the first 10,000 and maybe 1,000, and then from the basic technology to computer technology, like, 100 and 200 years maybe. It's just faster and faster and faster and faster and faster and faster and faster because this information is basically um, concressing, and it multiplies itself exponentially. Um, you could think of it as light refracting, I think, and that would be a pretty apt metaphor. Um, so yeah, I mean, if you not only consider how far we've come in 100 years, but then also consider the exponential acceleration of the evolutionary process. Um, an alien race that is 100,000 years older, even 1,000 years older than us, could be incredibly advanced. That is true, Charles, that we have regressed in the last 100 years, but I wouldn't necessarily say the last 100 years. I mean, it's not like these things are moving evenly. Some things regress as other things progress. So there's always this sort of back and forth. Some attributes of mankind slide forward while others slide backwards. It may be, and this is the kind of thinking that can lead to some pretty to an existential crisis, right? If you understand that all of these exchanges of energies are dependent upon an equal and opposite reaction, then you understand that as enlightenment increases with some people, there's going to be an inverse correlation with ignorance increasing. So they're war and peace will do the same thing. Slavery and freedom. You have all of these antinomies that are sort of pushing each other in opposite directions, would be one way to think about it, I guess. And so it makes it very difficult to imagine any kind of like unified progress, because the historical trend has been that as certain things improve, other things devolve. And so this is why it is so important that people like shamans and mystics have some level of respect, and also that those shamans and mystics are actually shamans and mystics and not pretenders, because that's never good. But you know what I mean? Like we need to have some respect for the fact that people who are using, let's just call them, their deep intuitive intelligence to understand the universe are the ones that we need to look to resolve the kind of problems that humanity has not been able to resolve without their input. That's not a coincidence. Um, it's also not a coincidence that the cultures that have revered the input of those types of people did not have the kind of problems that we have now. They might have had some types of problems, but certainly not the kind that we have. So I want to go for a walk and clear my head. Um, you know, I, uh, I wish I had more optimism to share, but this channel is about being honest and real. I'm not here to really even to try to make anyone like me. I'm just here because I feel like somebody's got to try to tell the truth. And uh, it's an honor to feel like I get to say things that make a lot of people hate me, I guess. Hello, Heather. Um, I don't know, man. There's a few more of you guys here. I feel like maybe we should keep talking these metaphysics. You guys got me thinking about deep stuff again. Oh, man. Oh, by the way, I don't know if did I make my pitch for support? Because we are trapped. Our guests have had to fly back to the United States before they could even come here, which means that you know we're our income has been totally just deleted by the situation with these protests. Um, so yeah, you can support us on Patreon. You can join our secret streams, and there's PayPal, Zelle, and cryptocurrency addresses if you want to offer one-time support. We really do appreciate it. We're demonetized. Um, I was demonetized for talking shit about Biden Harris. I guess that's the only thing that I I had done that seemed like maybe it would piss off YouTube uh, in 2020 when it happened. Yeah, that's the thing, man. I think that we're going to probably watch it all burn, and then we're going to, after like 5 years of, because five's the number of the government cycles. After 5 years or so, we're going to reemerge. That's why I'm really pushing people to come down here with us, help us jump on board to buy this amazing property in the jungle. It's out of the way enough that no one's. It's not. It's nowhere near any cities. Uh, the indigenous people that are there in that community, it's like the healthiest, most vibrant indigenous community that I've seen here. When we were driving away, they were having parades and it was just really nice, the area. And again, there's fish farms, chicken, ducks established, and then it's like a mecca or a Stonehenge of ayahuasca. There's this like giant rock with a big spherical stone sitting on top of it, and the Quichua shaman that owns the place said that if you drink ayahuasca and you put your hands on the stone, you can feel it vibrating. I wouldn't doubt it for a second. It was just really an amazing place, and it's set up for apocalypse type situation. So, in fact, our current guest here was going to fly back and start looking for investors. Now he's stuck. Um, Says a lot about how it went for him. He came here as he'd invested or something, um, but and then came and actually had a retreat for himself, and that went well enough that he summoned some family members that then got stuck in keto and are now returning back. So, and then he's feeling compelled to really get on board and try to help us land this property and stuff. So. It's gone really well so far, but now that we're stuck and no one can come or leave, it's um, that's not what we were really hoping for. Exactly. Yeah. So I'm done, you guys. I can't right now. I'm gonna go look for rainbow boas in the jungle because they're beautiful and I haven't seen one yet. And maybe I'll try to pick up a tarantula because I've always been kind of afraid of spiders. And oh, by the way, you guys that watch the channel because of the ayahuasca content, I am about to solve a mystery, an ethnobotanical mystery, and it seems like a great honor because this particular mystery is kind of like a torch being passed from Terrence and Dennis McKenna, because they were unable to solve this mystery. And I am not saying that no one knows the answer. Somebody's got to, but Google doesn't know the answer, and certainly no one has done like chemical essays on this plant. Psychotria carthaginogensis. It's not Genesis. It's Genesis. Um, and so it's related to the chacruna plant. It's in the coffee family as well. But if you look in all the forums, people don't seem to. There's no consensus about whether it even contains DMT or other active alkaloids. Apparently, it has some analgesic properties and pitosis. I don't even know what that is. I need to look it up and see what pitosis is. Um, there is no consensus as to whether it's even active or not. So I got a bunch of it, and I have brewed it up, and I'm gonna drink it and answer this question because the forums, like there are people that have said, I'm going to go and make this brew with this plant and tell you guys what happens, and then the thread is gone. So so I decided that I'm going to go ahead and figure it out. I mean, I know with certainty that the plant is safe and everything because the Quechua people around here use it routinely. So there's no issues with that. It's just a matter of like, is it added because it contributes to the entourage effect, or is it medically active somehow? And so that's why they're incorporating it into the brews. Interestingly, it usually seems to be used in conjunction with Chaliponga, which supports the idea that it actually doesn't have DMT or doesn't have very much DMT. So keep your eyes out for my video where I will report about what happened there, how that all went. Uh, Another thing I'm going to do, you guys keep an eye out for, if the world doesn't blow up, we are going to drag my new microphone and um, guitar and stuff to really crazy places and record videos. Maybe playing like Slayer right next to the what is the part, the cap of the volcano, the part that blows off. I can't remember the name at the moment. The cone. Like up there, Tungurahua. There are caiman in the lagoons, so maybe I'll play that old Grateful Dead song "Alligator," serenading an actual caiman. So keep an eye out for that on my music channel. I'm gonna start doing um reactions, but not to songs I don't know, but to songs like Third Eye by Tool that have, occult meanings that maybe not everyone has an awareness of, like what they're actually referencing. And The Grudge by Tool and a lot of the stuff that the Grateful Dead put out back in the day has a lot of occult and Luciferian references that go right over the majority of people's heads, which was definitely their intention with all that. So keep your eyes out for all of that stuff because I'm really trying to up my efforts to, expand my reach and entertain and contribute meaningfully to the lives of all of you wonderful people that support our channel. So for real this time, I am out of here. I appreciate every single one of you. Thanks to the new patrons. Please do support us because this protest really, the timing was horrific. Having to turn away guests that had already made it all the way to Ecuador is mind-blowingly. I mean, I know a lot of you guys followed the struggle that I've gone through over the last couple of years. So I'm trying to have a good attitude about it. It's not easy. So if there has ever been a time to support us, this is it. We really need to keep our positive momentum up, and it's a little bit difficult to even see how we can do that at the moment. Um, yeah, but like I said, I have to support the Indigenous in their efforts and commend them, and everything I can do short of actually going out and burning tires in the road with them. Um, I'm not going that far at the moment, but I will support them in theory, if not in practice, for the moment. And I will see you guys again very soon. Thank you so much.